Welcome to the BizGrowMojo podcast, the podcast where we get into real talk about business ownership, growth, marketing, learning lessons, and advice with real business owners. Here's your host, Ryan Amon. Now, let's get down to business.
I'm pumped to get this rolling. Let's go. In this episode, we talk with Ron Silberstein, a seasoned accountant with deep expertise in both professional services and the franchise world. Ron shares some of the biggest breakthroughs that helped him grow his business, along with marketing strategies that work for professional service-based businesses like his. Then we dive into how he and his team are building an entirely new industry with huge potential, cannabis lounges. You'll hear how his expert group is helping the right entrepreneurs buy into this unique franchise opportunity, who's a good fit, and what it takes to succeed. All right. Well, good to have you on this morning, Ron. I appreciate you hopping on here and telling us a little bit about your story, how you got into what you're doing and the opportunity that you have. I'm looking forward to talking about both, but let's just start, a little bit with, what you do now. How did you get into what you're doing now? And could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. And happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Ryan. So what I do now, I'm a CPA and still do some CPA work, working with small business clients in the franchise world for the most part, but also with some individual businesses of different types. And then I also prepare tax returns for a couple of tax controversy law firms. They work with individuals and businesses that are behind in their tax return filings and or in trouble with the IRS or state taxing authorities. And then I also am an entrepreneur and have a franchise business called Bud's Place, where we're a franchisor of social cannabis consumption lounges. We're working on getting our first lounge open right now. It's a brand new industry. There are very few actual licensed consumption lounges open in the U.S., so we think there's a huge opportunity to help start a new industry in the U.S., help create jobs, help people make money as franchisees in our system, and then it's something also that can be expanded internationally once we get going. So cannabis is a very interesting industry. It's about $30 billion right now in legal sales in the U.S. while being federally illegal. So some states have legalized cannabis in various forms and have legalized consumption lounges, but it's still illegal federally. So that brings on a lot of issues that most standard type of businesses don't have.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this is going to be probably the most interesting part of the conversation for sure. But before we get too deep into the cannabis opportunity there, tell us a little bit more about like how you got into your accounting business and especially how you started working with franchises. I think that's a pretty interesting, angle there that you focus on.
Yeah, so when I went to college, majored in accounting at the University of Michigan, and I wanted to be an accountant because growing up, one of my dad's best friends was a CPA, and he was a nice guy, a fun guy, interesting guy, had a nice lifestyle, and it was kind of something that intrigued me. And the accounting world back then, there were a lot of jobs available. You'd work hard, but you had a path to advancing, and then potentially having your own firm and your own clients. So I went to college, majored in accounting, passed the CPA exam when I got out, and enjoyed what I was doing. You were kind of like what you do. You're working with a lot of different businesses and helping them be more successful. Well, that's what accountants do too. And, you're working with businesses. You learn how to research all the rules out there. You help keep them out of trouble. They have things that they have to do, like They need financial statements. They need to file tax returns. They need information to run their business better. So you're helping them, so it's really about helping people, helping businesses. So I started out that way, and that kind of ties in, to the Buzz Place stuff now is we're helping people. We're helping cannabis users. We're helping individuals that want to become franchisees and get into business for themselves. So it's really all related, all interrelated.
Yeah.
And you build up that experience, when you're helping people and helping businesses, and it helps in a lot of other areas as well.
There's a lot of joy in helping other business owners. I love the concept of self-employment, and I like helping people get there and better their current position in it. I get a lot of joy out of that. It sounds like you do as well. Um, what's different about accounting for franchises versus just a regular, small business that's not a franchise?
Yeah, great question. So much of it is the same with franchises and with franchisees and with franchisors, but there are some things that are different. So franchising itself has a few different accounting rules and revenue recognition rules. And they may have rules in their franchise agreement if you're a franchisee that spells out, the kind of information that you have to provide to your franchisor and how often you have to provide it. So some systems, it's give us your annual financial statements. We have to have your tax return by such and such a date. You have to pay your royalties every so often, which is usually a percentage of sales, but there can be different methods of calculating and paying royalties on, to the franchisors. So, so the accountant has to really understand, franchising, has to know where to look in the franchise agreement, for the response, which spells out the responsibilities of the franchisor and the responsibilities of the franchisee. One client of mine has to provide monthly financials in a specific format to their franchisor. And, in addition to paying royalties every week and other fees they may have to pay on a weekly basis. Every system is different as far as, timing of payments. Some, with all the technology out there now, some franchisors take royalties every day out of their franchisee's bank account, where they can go into the software, see what the sales were the day before, and then they just draft the royalties right out of the account. When I got started in franchising with Pro Golf, it was Pro Golf of America, which was a franchisor of golf retail stores. And, basically this was before there was all this technology out there. And the franchisees, every month, they sent us a report of what their sales were the month before and sent us a check for the royalties. Technology is really taken over now in the way most franchisors work with their franchisees. But back then it was send us a report every month, send us a check for your royalties, send us your tax return at the end of the year within so many days after your year end. And we had audit rights. Most franchisors have audit rights where they can go in and audit a franchisee to make sure they're reporting everything properly and complying with the contract. But, that's how it was on the franchise side when I got into that. And on the CPA side, it's really, knowing what the rules are that relate to franchises and franchise accounting so that you can do everything with your client that's within the proper rules. And then it still gets to the help keep them out of trouble with the IRS, help keep them out of trouble with the states, and help keep them out of trouble with their franchisor.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, thinking back to, when you kind of got going in your own business, what were some of the early wins and breakthroughs that you had that, felt like it really got you moving in the right direction to be successful in your business?
Yeah. So, after I got around to starting my own CPA firm, I mean, that's when really the wins started happening. And it was, there's a lot of, you have to be kind of a free thinker to build your own business in anything. And when
Absolutely.
you're getting into uh, the world of being, a trusted professional advisor, and this kind of goes for, the medical profession, the legal profession, the accounting profession. Uh, there's a lot of people in those professions that are really, really good at what they do, but don't know how to sell. And, you may have there's a big joke about medical doctors and the way they invest and things like that they may be great doctors, but they don't know a lot about running a business or investing money or things like that. So most of the smart ones team up, build a team of people that they can count on. Uh, and that's what we want as an accountant. We want you to be free and, spend most of your time running your business
Yeah.
and working on your business, working in your business if you have to, and not worrying. We don't want the client spending a lot of time doing accounting or bookkeeping or things like that, because that's usually not
Absolutely.
the best use of their time.
And,
So they put a team together, including people like you and me, marketing and advertising and promotional people to help them grow. But we want them doing what they're good at and focusing on their business and not having to worry about their accounting and tax stuff, and leave that to us and let us let us give them data that helps them understand how things are going with their business so they can make good decisions in running their business, because that part's really up to them, not up to me. But as like you, as a marketing person or PR person, you see things that work for clients and for different kinds of businesses. You see things that don't work. And that's what we do too. We see things that work. We see things that don't work. We see the mistakes that are made by other businesses, or we hear about them when we go to seminars and conferences, and that lets us give that info to our clients so that they can make more money, or they can lose less money, or they can make wise business decisions.
yeah. And
And
that's where that trusted advisor, aspect really comes into play. And I think I share that same philosophy. That's what we want. It's what I want my clients to be able to do is focus on, running their business and building their business and not have to worry about all the other things. There's so many things as a business owner, I mean, the accounting, the marketing, and just so many other aspects. It's just so much to try to tackle. And like you said, you need a good team of professionals to help you with those things, or, you get buried in all the minute details and you don't get the chance to build your business. And I think every business needs somebody championing building it, or it's just not going to grow.
right. So that's where the CPAs come in. That's where the business attorneys come in. That's where, the marketing people come in. It's taking that load off the shoulders of the client, so that they can really focus on everything that they're really good at and leave some of the rest of it to us. And
Yeah.
that's really not an expense of the business. It's as far as my fees go or your fees would go, it's an investment that they're
Yeah.
making in
And
business
it's all
because we
it's
add
all
value,
write off, right? I mean,
right?
yeah. Um, so as an accountant in your own business, what's been some of the biggest challenges that you've faced with just, getting to that next level?
Yeah. So there's many that think it's solely a relationship business when you're an accountant, and that you get a client, whether it's a friend or just somebody you were able to pick up as a new client, and you do good work for them and keep them out of trouble, and get everything filed on time and stuff like that, and that they'll be with you forever. So I used to think that, when I was younger and maybe more naive. And then, you do great work for a client, save them a lot of money, keep them out of trouble. They're making a ton of money. And then, you get that call one day or that letter one day. Hey, I found a new accountant. I'm switching accountants. Please give them all your records. Thanks for everything you did for me. Goodbye. And so I kind of got a little jaded after that. And it's like, wait a minute, what did I do wrong? Where did I mess up here? Why am I losing this client that, that I had a lot of value to, that I saved a lot of money way over and above, the fees that they were paying me? And you kind of learn that maybe it's not such a relationship business, because you always have things going on with their business, especially, in the last 10 or 15 years, you've had a lot of corporate downsizing, a lot of acquisitions made. So you can always lose a client that way when they get acquired by somebody else who has their own accountant. Years ago, we had a client that was, it was a franchisor of healthy pizza restaurants. And they had some big time investors in that company. Mark Cuban was an investor in that.
Wow.
Robert Kraft, the New England Patriots owner, was an investor in that company. And, lo and behold, after a couple of years of working with them, Mark Cuban got more involved with them, and he ended up switching their audit work. We were their auditors for the franchise company, to his auditors in Dallas. And, that kind of stuff, there's nothing you can do. And so you kind of learn that clients come and go for whatever reasons. Just like with regular businesses, you can have some great customers and then boom, they get acquired. And the company that acquired them has other suppliers that do the same thing you do. So they switch
Other plans
and they're gone. So what I learned, and it took a while, but what I learned was that you always need a pipeline there of new clients.
Absolutely.
And that it also learned that it's kind of that it may be very treacherous to have one big client, and some little clients, because if that big client goes, then you're in trouble.
Yeah. Then you're upside down. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other challenge as an accountant and with an accounting firm is they used to look down upon advertising. And in many cases, there were rules against advertising.
Oh, wow.
In the accounting profession. So that made it difficult back then, to have that pipeline of new clients in the work. At least you couldn't advertise to get them. So you needed to figure out other ways. And that's where we really learned how to get new clients. And for us, the best way to get new clients before we were advertising or able to advertise was to build up a good solid base of referral sources. And for me, my mindset totally changed, because it became where, the clients we had at the firm, were our clients, were my clients if I brought them in. My focus really turned away from being, the accountant who provided great service and reasonable fees to my clients, to the person that was focused on properly taking care of my referral sources. Because in many cases, once I started focusing on the referral sources, by the time a potential client talked to me, they were really not a potential client anymore. They were a client. They had already been sold on me by somebody else, and, sold on me and sold on our firm, so that when they were calling me about doing their work, I really didn't have to do any selling. I just had to communicate properly and be understanding when I was talking to them, and find out what their issues were and why they were looking for an accountant, or why they were interested in changing accountants.
That's
And,
a great position to
but
be
they
in.
were already sold. And
Yeah.
so at our firm, we didn't have any fancy brochures. We didn't have to prepare, 20-page proposal agreements, showing everything we could do for them and then go back and forth and negotiate and wait for them to decide to hire us. For the most part, by the time they were talking to us, they were ready to sign an agreement and hire us and pay us a retainer, and things like that. So it really made things a lot easier for us once we figured out who we needed to focus on, how to do it, what the referral sources were looking for their clients, and try to get an understanding before we even talk to the prospect by talking to the referral source. We also had to educate the referral sources on how to sell us to their clients and what to say. But everything made it way easier on us to get new clients, because by the time we were talking to most of the prospects, they weren't really, they weren't cold prospects. They were hot and just waiting to get moving with us.
It's such a different conversation when people come to you versus when you're beating on their door and they don't know who you are, versus when somebody's given a good word for what you can do. It's just a completely different conversation. Um, Tell us a little bit more about what you did with, like, how you developed those referral sources, and maybe what some of those were, if you don't mind sharing.
Sure. So we did a lot of audits of small public companies and also some franchise companies. And the way the referral sources were developed, and that part takes some time to develop them. So, and we were really focused then on the attorneys as the referral sources. So it was, we went to conferences, SEC conferences, franchise conferences, and we networked with the attorneys that were there at the conference. And we networked with, at both the franchise companies. Almost all of them have franchise attorneys who are looking for good accountants and auditors to refer their clients to. And, and the flip side of that is they're also looking for people to refer them business. So it's, sometimes you have to be the one, doing the referring first, to get the referrals back from them. But it's really just being willing to help, being willing to take phone calls from people that just help them out and not charge for every second that you spend on the phone. So attorneys knew they could call us at any time if they had a question, an accounting question or a tax question related to one of their clients, even if that client wasn't my client yet, and, to pick my brain. And, so we set time aside for that. And that's really, any professional, not any professional, but most people with their own business need to set time aside for building up that pipeline of potential new clients and realizing that you're not going to always get paid for that time at the time, but it's an investment in the long term. And some things you're going to spend the time and not get paid for it, but hopefully, down the road, those, it pays off, and you get the return on that investment. And we focused on our referral sources that way, on letting them know we were always here for them if they had any questions or needed help on anything or wanted us to look at something to make sure the client was doing it properly. And for us, that turned into, a lot of referrals from those professionals. And then some of the referrals we got were from other accountants that realized they could trust us if they were doing the accounting for their client, and if they were doing the tax returns for that client. But if they needed audited financial statements, for example, that firm didn't do audits mainly, maybe, so they wanted somebody else to do the audit for their client and take good care of their client, but it was still their client for the other things that person or business needed. And, so, yeah, and trust doesn't get built up overnight. So it all just takes time, but it's part of, having that as your mission to get, in with some good referral sources, uh, and figure out what you need to do or what they would want from you to be able to refer you business. And then once you've produced, once you've done real good work for their clients, now those clients become referral sources, the attorneys and everyone in their firm becomes referral sources. And then when the attorneys in that firm may move on to a different firm or start their own firm, now they're still a referral source.
Yeah.
So it kind of snowballs.
Yeah. Yeah. I keep hearing these recurring themes. It's like, network like crazy, be willing to help people, and become an authority in some way. And it looks like you did it through the referral avenue, but those three things I keep hearing from successful business owners that's like, some of the key foundations of how they really got into a good position of success.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you're in a niche, uh, do whatever you can to be able to promote yourself as an expert, or even better, have other people promote you as an expert. Because you can toot your own horn. If you're the only one tooting it though, it becomes more difficult. Uh, and your expertise can be questioned a little bit more by prospects than if you have a network of other people that are tooting the horn for you.
Okay. One more quick question just before we kind of get into the opportunity, because I think we're going to have some fun, talking about that. I'm just curious, do you have any systems or tools that you found that have been extremely helpful in your business that, you would recommend others look into?
Yeah, on the CPA firm side, we had incredible success using Google AdWords as far as getting new clients. And I had friends with CPA firms who did nothing like that. They got their clients in other ways, and there's a lot of, I think, professionals out there, whether it's physicians or attorneys or accountants, who don't think that, who are really focused on it being a relationship business and don't think that people would hire an accountant or search for an accountant online. But what we found was people
They do. Yeah, absolutely.
and if they're at home, at 2 a.m. Googling, CPAs that audit franchise companies online. And if we're not there for them to find us, they'll find somebody else.
Yep.
So we were spending maybe $1,000 a month in Google ads, and getting way more than that back in business. And, some of them were some pretty big companies that found us online, called us and hired us to be their auditor or their tax return preparer or their, trusted professional advisor just by finding us on Google. And if we weren't there, they would have found somebody else. So I think the power of the internet now, especially, and it's not just, I'm based in the Detroit area, but we had clients all over the world, and flew a ton, to get to them to do their work on the ones that we had to be on site for. But some of them, found us online. I remember once we had one of my partners had a pretty big client that owned a bunch of restaurants, and they hired a new CFO who had come from a big accounting firm, and we were notified, that April, after we finished up their annual work, that they were switching to a big CPA firm. And that one client was about 20%, not 20%, they were about 10% of our business at that time. And within a week, we had replaced their business with a new client that found us online, that needed audited financials. And, that was really the power of being online, is we lost a big client. Within a matter of days, we had a new client whose annual billings were going to be more than the client that we had lost. And, most other accounting firms never would have had that opportunity, because they wouldn't have been able to be found online, through somebody searching for
The diversification of lead sources is, it's so important. It's great that you had the referral thing going, but being able to get found online, just another avenue for people to find you. It's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, that worked. You've got to. It took us a while to fine tune the way that we were advertising on Google and Google AdWords, and what search words to work. Because with that, we were paying per click. And initially, when we started doing it, it took us 6 to 9 months to figure out, that we were paying for clicks that really didn't apply to the types of clients we were looking for and the kind of business that we wanted to get. So we had to continually be fine tuning the way we were advertising so that it would work. And that was a while ago. So now there are a lot of people out there that specialize in, as search engine optimization and different things to fine tune the advertising so that the types of clients you're trying to get are the ones that actually find you. And, so it's not something that just happens overnight. So you can't just decide, okay, I'm going to try advertising and then, try it for a month and not get anything out of it and give up. Well, that shit doesn't work. You've got to figure out why it's not working. And it's really with anything in business that you try that doesn't work. Ideally, you try to find out why didn't it work.
Yeah, try a few different things.
Yeah, and try to improve it. But always know that not everything's going to work, and you've got to be willing to change it or willing to know when to pull the plug on it, and try something else, because not everything's going to work. But certainly, if you're not trying things, then you're not going to know. If you don't try, you don't know if it would work or not. And you can try to go by the experience that others have had, or learn from the mistakes of others, but it still doesn't mean because you think you can do it better than they did it, that what you're trying is really going to be better or going to work. Some things just don't work.
Yeah. And some things work for some businesses and not others.
Yeah. So it's, especially in this kind of fast-paced business world that we're in now, things can change almost overnight in some businesses. And with the political climate we're in, tariffs, for example, and inflation, stuff could be there one day and not be there the next. And if you don't know that something changed, or you don't have a plan in place as to what to do when something changes, days and minutes and hours can be very important sometimes in what you're doing, and both in stopping losses, but also taking advantage of opportunities that could arise overnight.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate that, Ron. That's a lot of good information about kind of, your core business and how you got going and everything. Why don't we get a little bit into the opportunity here and get into some fun stuff on that. Tell us a little bit more about it, and how somebody could possibly get involved in this, and what the opportunity is for a listener that might be interested in it.
Sure. And before we get going, since you have a hat on, I'll pop one on now.
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Nice. All right.
I didn't want to be blatantly advertising Bud's Place with a shirt and all that, since I knew we were going to be talking about some other things. But we
Time
do
to put a new hat on.
Yeah, we do have an opportunity here with our franchising company. It's called Bud's Place. We're a franchisor of social cannabis consumption lounges. We touched on it a little bit earlier, but we put a model together for lounges with multiple revenue streams: food and beverage, entertainment, retail of accessories, work areas, VIP rooms, special events, entertainment, all, a lot of different things that we think potential customers of a consumption lounge would want. And, we had some comparable industries to examine and look at when we were building our model, like the bar industry and the cigar lounge industry and the restaurant industry, to try to figure out what makes those types of businesses successful, what kinds of things customers want. We've, since early on, the main objections we were hearing, as to, from friends and people we were talking to and telling about our concept was, why would I go to a consumption lounge when I can smoke marijuana at home, or go outside and smoke? And, we our comebacks to that are, you can eat at home, but
you can drink at home too.
Yeah, you can eat at home, you can drink at home. Yet there's 60,000 bars in the U.S. There, way more restaurants than bars. So, well, you can eat at home, but you go out to eat. You can drink at home, but there's all these bars out there, and they're all different shapes and sizes and do different things and have different stuff for their customers to do. And, they're busy. And, yet with cannabis, it's, you can smoke it at home, but if you smoke it in your home, you're usually going to have some residual odors there that you may or may not want. You may have kids and not want to be partaking in cannabis in front of them. Blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of different things out there, and it made it even more challenging by it being a brand new industry and by being federally illegal. So we put a model together that we believe can be extremely successful in certain states right now that are good with consumption lounges. We put a model together where we believe franchisees can get proper training and support from us and from our team, and some of that could be outsourced, related to the cannabis training and the hospitality part of it. We have a food and beverage partner that's got 35 or 40 restaurants open in the U.S. right now, and they're opening new ones almost on a monthly basis right now. So for us, that was important because they've trained franchisees. They've got buying power in their system. One of the advantages, or a few of the advantages in being part of a franchise system, is the training and support and buying power, and being part of something that has a brand and has customer loyalty. So the brand part and the customer loyalty part for us with Bud's Place is going to take some time. We've got to get some lounges open and do things the right way and take good care of the customers. But it's really just kind of business 101 with the model we put together. So it's, nice, clean, safe environment, good food, good customer service. It's really all the basic stuff, yet it's not basic because it's related to cannabis and cannabis usage. But it's really giving people a place where they can go and work all day if they want to work, if they want to hang out with their friends, if they want to watch a game on TV, if they want to see a comedy show. We've got different things going on in the space at different times that can give the customers a reason to stay there for a couple hours, spend some money, eat some food, have a good time, get work done if they want. And
it seems like there's an opportunity there to kind of have that cross between coffee shop and bar that you don't have with really anything else. I mean, somebody going to a bar typically isn't going to work and drink coffee, and somebody going to a coffee shop, obviously they're not going to drink and have the entertainment. So it's like it just seems like a different, unique opportunity, which leads me to the question: are there very many cannabis lounges out there at the moment? I've never seen any. I don't really know. I've seen dispensaries. I've never seen one with a lounge.
Yeah, so there aren't a lot of lounges open right now, and for a few reasons, I think. One of them is uh, the rules are different everywhere. So the states that allow lounges and have rules related to lounges, and examples of those right now would be California, uh, Michigan, Colorado, uh, and a few other states, New Jersey, that have rules for lounges. But by the rules being different everywhere, it creates different challenges. And the marijuana rules are different everywhere also. In most states, any marijuana sold in that state has to be grown in that state. So you can't transport it over state lines since it's federally illegal. So there's a lot of little challenges there. But for us, it's really, find out what the rules are in a certain state or area and figure out if our model will work there and stay true to our model. So it's and the other thing that's made it tough on the lounges that have been open so far is most of them, specifically like California and a few in Michigan, they were part of the dispensary, where the dispensary was really just using their little smoking area to sell more marijuana to their customers. And okay, so they built out a little room that had some chairs and tables and booths and a TV or two, and maybe like a little Pac-Man game or something like that. But there was really nothing to do in there.
It's not at the scale that we're
Right,
talking.
right. They didn't have food and beverage. They didn't really have entertainment. It was what we like to call smoking room, and not a hospitality facility.
Yeah.
And those, they weren't profit centers. They didn't know how to do it. They were in the marijuana business, not in the hospitality business or the lounge business. So what we think the next evolution in lounges is more hospitality facilities, and a couple have opened recently. Not of ours. We don't have a Buzz Place open yet. We're trying to get our first one open, but there's a lounge in Denver that has some food and beverage, has some memberships, has entertainment that they're doing, and acts that they're booking, and they seem to be off to a good start. There's a lounge in the San Diego area that seems to be getting more and more popular, and as these better kinds of lounges start opening, we think that it's going to open it up really for people to see what a lounge should be. And we love our model. We think it's better than anything we've seen out there. We have a team that can help people get off to a good start, get trained properly, and get open.
But yeah, it seems like the amount of hoops jumping through and the differences between states like really, lends the scenario well to have you guys step in and help and have somebody knowledgeable about franchises and accounting for one, but let alone all the partnerships and everything else that you're building to make this come together and work. Seems like it would just be invaluable for anybody that's interested in getting into something like this instead of trying to navigate all this on their own.
Yeah, and that's exactly how we think. We thought early on that there would be potential franchisees out there that would see all the potential in this business model and want to get involved, even though we hadn't been able to open one yet. But kind of found out that everybody wanted to see, some successful lounges be open before they were willing to take the plunge into it. So we're working hard to get our first one open. We have some investor opportunities available for anybody who wanted to partner with us in that first lounge, or sign a franchise agreement to open up one unit or multiple units in their area or state. We can make some good deals with early adopters of our model. We've got a lot of our own time and money sunk in to our model, and can have a fair amount of money available to help open up our first lounge. We've got a lot of people in the pipeline that want to own the second one, but
everybody's afraid to take.
We got to get that. People need to see some successful consumption lounges open in different areas of the country, I think, before they're going to be comfortable with that. But, we still think there's people out there that are willing to uh, take whatever risk they may be in a brand new industry because there's far more upside in something that's new. Uh, there's franchise systems out there that have had a lot of success and basically are out of territories to sell because they're everywhere already. We don't have that problem. We've got wide open territories,
ground floor opportunity.
And, somebody could lock up a whole state if they wanted to. There's certain states out there, Michigan, California, Florida, that could handle a lot of lounges in that state. And if somebody was really an entrepreneur and wanted, to open up 20 in Michigan or 50 in California, we can make that kind of a deal with them once we're ready to go. But we can, and they still get all the help, all the training, all the buying power by being part of our system. And there's a lot of different things we can offer them for help.
What are some of the support systems that you guys intend to offer? I mean, you kind of touched on a few, but do you intend to like offer marketing support or anything along those lines out of curiosity?
Yeah. So by being part of our system, they're going to get upfront training. We have approval rights on sites, but they really have to select it. But we can refer to brokers in their area to help them find a good site. We can refer them to other professionals they may need to work with. If they need a license in their state, we've got attorneys we can refer them to help them with the licensing process for their lounge. But they get, I think, 46 hours of training from us on the lounge. They get, they'll have buying power. So by, our food and beverage partner, Crave, Hot Dogs and Barbecue, they've got buying power already with the kitchen equipment suppliers. They'll help train. They're part of our training program. So they'll help train the franchisee on the food and beverage and hospitality part. They'll get ongoing support from us. They'll be part of a loyalty program with our customers. So, once we get some units open around the country, they'll have customers that are members of Bud's Place that will search them out and go to their lounge when they're in that area because, they're a member of Bud's Place. They get certain perks by being a member. They'll get trained on a lot of things in their initial training, and then they get ongoing support from us. We'll have a national advertising program that they'll be part of, or we'll help promote them, in their area. So
a lot of benefits.
You look at some of the big franchise systems, whether, Planet Fitness, McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, all their TV, much of their TV advertising is paid for by their national advertising fund money or their brand development funds. So it helps all the franchisees. They're still responsible for, advertising, marketing in their own area, but they will get help from corporate. They'll pay a little bit into our marketing fund, but they'll see big benefits from that. But it's really being part of a brand that over time will become a national brand, so people will recognize them. They get systems, they get support from us, they get training from us, they'll get the menu from us, and all that other stuff. We'll have agreements with rideshare companies that they can participate in because, part of the safety with customers is making sure they get home safely if they're too impaired to drive, which can happen with cannabis, can happen with alcohol. It's obviously, a big deal.
That's a good idea, just that partnership, because I don't even see a lot of the bars doing that, and I don't know why. It seems like a huge missed opportunity. I mean, there's money to be made in it aside from, just the safety aspect of it.
Right. And maybe we'll have rideshare agreements that provide a little bit of a discount to the customers too. So we're helping them save some money.
Yeah.
But it's really all about customer safety. It's about having staff that are trained to recognize when customers may not be able to drive. finding out if they drove, or if they walked there, if they have a designated driver, or whatever, find out, what they've been imbibing or consuming, what kind of medication they're on. It's really just all about interacting with the customers so that you can do the best job possible to help keep them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
And
and that's more, I think than most borrowers do. So I mean, it sounds
right.
like you're on really good track there. I mean, you guys have got all the support elements in place. It sounds like, with that in mind, who's a good fit for this opportunity? Really, anybody that wants to invest. I mean, are you looking for any particular traits that somebody needs to have to be able to do this?
Yeah. So, and that's a great question. First, uh, it can take a fair amount of capital to own our kind of lounge. Uh, it can cost for the ventilation system. It can cost for the the security system, the internet wiring, the sound system, the build out of the location. Uh, the air cleaning system can be expensive. So we need somebody with enough capital to be able to get a lounge open on their own. Part of the challenge with cannabis being federally illegal is that the big banks, most of the big banks in the U.S., are not interested in working with cannabis businesses because of their federal charters. Uh, it can make it difficult in some businesses to have bank accounts to do advertising and marketing and things like that. But because we're a bring your own model, we think our lounge model will not be affected by most of those rules, where we can take credit cards, we can deduct all our expenses, where
Oh, that's good.
as cannabis is federally illegal, most cannabis businesses can't deduct most of their business expenses, other cost of goods sold. But we've got we figured out ways to work within the system to have a successful, profitable model that follows all the rules, and love the model. So the kind of person we're looking for has to be able to has to have enough capital to be able to fund it themselves if they need to, or have a group together that can fund it and get it open. They don't really need to know the cannabis business or the hospitality business because they're going to be trained in that. So that's really a big thing with most franchises is that you could have been an employee all your life, let's say, at a bank or in any unrelated business, and want to get into your own business and own your own business. And it's the support and training and systems that you get from the franchisor that helps you be a successful business owner, at least with one unit. There's other types of people that could run 5 or 10 units or more themselves, and own them, and have a general manager that's overseeing most of the day-to-day stuff, because there's different kinds of people that would be good at owning one business and being on site all the time or most of the time with their main focus on that unit versus owning 5 or 10 units. And you see that in all kinds of industries where somebody can have a successful business on their own, and then they
Managing
open
people.
a second one or third one or fifth one, and all of a sudden all of them are failing.
Yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's really nothing unique to ours. So it's really having the drive to be successful, knowing all the opportunities, want to be out there in your community and be a good corporate guest in that community, focused on following the rules. Their cowboys, may not be good franchisees if they're always trying to do things their own way and not following the systems. Uh, Veterans are usually very good franchisees because they're used to following systems. And if you're in the Army or Navy or Marines, every day you're following systems, and knowing that they're there to help you succeed, help you do what you're supposed to do, help you get the job done. And We saw that in Texas recently with the floods the last few days, where the Coast Guard rescue people. In fact, one of them they were interviewing was a former accountant and got into the Coast Guard, and this was his first rescue mission. And because of all the training he had received and all the systems he followed and his team followed, they were able to rescue some people and have success. And so a good franchisee is somebody who's willing to follow the script and understands that that's the way they're going to have success. And with us as a new franchisor without any units open, we're going to have a learning curve on our own too, on the training programs, on things that work, that don't work. So what we're doing is giving the early franchisees more upside, because even though I don't think there's a lot of risk or any risk in our business, the fact is in any new business, there's risk. And in any new industry, that adds to the risk. So because they have more risk, we're trying to give them more upside if they get in early on our system. We have a $75,000 franchise fee, which covers all the training, covers the brand, covers all the help we're going to give them to get open. We offer discounts to veterans. We offer a discount on the franchise fee and the royalties as well to people of color, or people, in the cannabis industry, they call it social equity. So people who have been affected by the drug trade or live in disadvantaged areas, we can give them a discount on franchise fees and on royalties, but they still cost X number of dollars to get a unit open. So they've still got to have the capital or be able to get the capital, to open a unit and, open a lounge. And sometimes that's just going to be having a team together that has all the capital to invest in it so that they can get it going. But,
do you have a kind of a projected cost for, what it might look like aside from the franchise fee to get it open? I suppose it probably depends on the kind of the route they want to take, which is another question I had. When, somebody partners with a Buds, do you guys require that there be a lounge, a bar, anything like that? Or is it pretty well open to, the person coming in, how they want to kind of set it up and what things they want to include?
Yeah. So, we have a model that is required to be followed, as do most franchisors. We have a few things in there that depend on the area they're in. Bar, for example, so alcohol for the most part right now is not allowed in a consumption lounge.
Okay.
But it really is, it depends on where you're located and what the rules are there. We certainly want to be able to sell alcohol in every Bud's place, but right now there's only a couple states or areas that would allow alcohol. You'd still have to be able to get liquor license or beer and wine license in the community that you're going to be located in, and that could be a challenge, or that could be a no-go. So what we've done with our own internal projections is built them out without cannabis sales and without alcohol sales, but we know that those may be allowed in certain areas, and it may be something that becomes allowed in the future. So it's really, we've got different revenue streams. Right now, we've got a template layout on how we want them to look, but we know that, you're not always going to find a potential location that's a perfect square or rectangle and the exact number of square feet that we have in our models. So we know that as far the layout of each Bud's place may be a little different depending on the space that they rent. But still, you walk into an Outback Steakhouse, for example, and almost everyone is exactly the same. Walk into a McDonald's, and they used to all be the same. Now they're changing a little bit inside with adding kiosks and things like that. But you want something in franchising that is consistent, is replicable, so that customers, when they come in, they already know what it's going to look like and what to expect. The cost, the franchise disclosure document, FDD, has a bunch of information in there about the franchisor, including a table, item 7, that has the initial costs or the initial investment to get in. Our most recent franchise disclosure document, the initial investment table, and I'll use round numbers, has a range at the low end of about 550,000 to the top end of about $1.1 million. So, it depends on how big it is. It's a big range because it depends on how big the space is. It depends on what the real estate costs are, where you're located. It depends on what different things in there are going to cost, what the insurance is going to cost, what the build out's going to cost, what the HVAC rules are. So it's a pretty big range, but that's what we think, it'll take to open a lounge. And, every year that table gets updated with new figures. If there's inflation, the costs may go up. If there's supply chain issues, the time frame to get open might change. But everything's pretty much laid out in the FDD. That document that all franchisors are required to have also lays out, information on the management team. It lays out the franchisee's responsibilities, the franchisor's responsibilities, shows them basically, almost everything they need to know about the system. Systems that have franchises open, it will also have a list of franchisees in there. So part of the due diligence people do when they're looking to buy a franchise is talk to existing franchisees, talk to former franchisees, find out as much as they can about the system. One of the main questions, I have my clients ask when they're looking at buying a franchise is, ask a franchisee, if you were doing it all over again, would you still buy this franchise? And, so anybody looking at buying a franchise in a existing system that has units open, the due diligence part, as far as talking to franchisees and former franchisees, is one of the most important things they can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just one last question before we kind of wrap up here on, do you guys have a way that somebody could reasonably predict the ROI they might see from one of these, or is that yet to come?
Yeah. So, and this kind of gets back to the franchising rules, is there's an item 19 in the franchise document, which is a financial performance representation. Since we do not have any units open yet, we do not have one of those in our FDD, and we're not able to provide expected numbers to a prospective franchisee. We can help them develop that after they've signed a franchise agreement, but it's really up to them up front to try to put some projections together so they can kind of try to figure out how many customers a day they're going to have. They could find out from, our food and beverage partner and talk to some of their franchisees to find out what they're doing on the food and beverage side, on the sales side, what the average ticket price is per customer on the food and beverage. They could try to, once they try to figure out how many customers a day they can expect. They can, multiply that out times the entry fee or the membership fee to figure out what that revenue might look like. But for now, until we have some units open, they kind of have to figure it out themselves or take a crack at it themselves.
Yeah.
What we did
It's always a magic question,
Yeah, and there can be extremely aggressive projections. There can be conservative ones. I've yet to talk to a new business owner who said their projections were really aggressive. Everybody says they're conservative. You're going to do better than this, but we try to be conservative. That's kind of a standard line. But what we did when we put our projections together for the first unit that we're trying to get open is we talked to existing hospitality facilities. We went to some cigar bars. We talked to the general managers. We tried to find out, how many customers a day they have, during on a weekday and on a weekend. What kind of food sales they have, what kind of other sales they may have, and kind of then took that and put our projections together for what we think one of our units can do. You can go to bars, you can go to Dave and Buster's, you can go to different places like that and see how they're doing, or just talk to general managers, waitresses, service people. They're usually happy to talk.
Yeah.
We went to a consumption lounge in an area that was open in Michigan and talked to the security guard. We went during the day, during a slow time. My main partner, Mark Cohen, and I, we talked to the security guard for about an hour. He had nothing to do. There was nobody else in there at that time. He was happy to talk to us. And,
that due diligence, just talking to people can go a long ways.
Yeah. It's like friends in high places, friends in low places. You never know whose brain you can pick on, customer counts, how much people spend, things like that. And all of that information, you file it away and it helps you put your own numbers together.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it sounds like you guys have got a really good system that you've worked out. You've got a lot of resources. You've got a lot of expertise in the area. I can't see, it just seems like this is such a good opportunity for somebody to get into that's, interested in doing something along these lines. So where can people go to learn more about the opportunity and get in contact with you?
Yeah, so our website is buds-place.com, buds-place.com. It's got a lot of information on us. Anybody can contact me directly. My email address is ron.s@buds-place.com.
Awesome.
Cell phone number is 248-302-3344. I respond to texts, phone calls, anything. Anybody can ask whatever questions they want, find out what they need to do to become a franchisee, what kind of investment opportunities we have available, things like that. We see it as an industry that's going to be huge, an industry that at some point, the bar industry and restaurant industry and cannabis consumption industry will all meld into one. And, you can go to a place, and eat and drink and consume, or a group can come in. For some people are cannabis users and some people drink, and they can all have a really good time. We see our lounges as a place where customers can have high quality fun. That's our tagline, HQF, high quality fun. And that's exactly really what we're all about, high quality fun.
Absolutely.
You get high, but it's a quality place. We'll have different ways somebody can have fun, and they can work if they want. They can just hang out with their friends. They can watch a game. They can see a show. There'll be a lot of things going on. It'll become more apparent once we have some units open, but we have huge opportunities available for people that get in on it early. And there's a ton of opportunity for them to have fun and make a lot of money.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you coming on and telling everybody about the opportunity here and a little bit about your background and some of your successes and wins and challenges. It's been a good time talking to you, Ron. And I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes and seeing probably a whole slew of franchises out there in the near future.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for too, Ryan. Thanks for having me today, and look forward to more discussions.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ron. Have a good rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.
Bye now.
You've been listening to the BizGrowMojo podcast with Ryan Amon. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on the BizGrowMojo podcast.